All right, people. So our book this week is The Midnight Library. Yes, you may have read it. It came out last year, right? 2020. Won a lot of awards and good praise. So I figured I'd check it out. It's by Matt Haig, right? Who has a whole host of books to his name. You know what I mean? So, yes. Now, the gist of the book is oh, actually, I should probably get the narrator, right? Because that would be a bit crazy. Carrie Mulligan. Right? Carrie Mulligan does the narration, which, you know what I mean? Can you get better than that? Ah, delightful, right? Carrie Mulligan she's got a very good voice for books. You know what I mean? Which I think is, yeah, it's a good thing. But, okay, the gist of the book is this. Somewhere out beyond the edge of the universe, there is a library that contains an infinite number of books, each one the story of another reality. One tells a story of your life as it is, along with another book for the other life you could have lived. If you have, if you have, if you had made a different choice at any point in your life, while we all wonder how our lives might have been, what if you had the chance to go to the library and see for yourself? Would any of these other lives truly be better? In The Midnight Library, Matt Haig's enchanting blockbuster novel, Nora Seed finds herself faced with this decision, faced with the possibility of changing her life for a new one, following a different career, undoing old breakups, realizing her dreams of becoming a glaciologist. She must search within herself as she travels through the Midnight Library to decide what is truly fulfilling in life and what makes it worth living in the first place. So, yes, there you have it. Now, I will say that that description isn't quite right? Because a library isn't there. You know what I mean? The thing being is, what would be there is the thing that speaks to you. That's what we find out. It's not, yeah, it's not that, you know, you might not see a library, but Nora sees a library because that's where she spends a lot of her time. You know, that was the thing. Right. So yeah, I did find that a bit weird. Now, the book itself, right? So we start off and we kind of get a sense of Nora's life. You know, she's living alone. Um, she was meant to be married to Dan, but she called off the wedding 2 days before. I think it was 2 days before, or was it 2 weeks before? It was two something before, but it was very close to the date. She calls it off. Dan's still contacting her, sending her messages, says he misses her. She still loves him, but is confused. Right? She used to be a swimmer, very good swimmer. She quit that. Used to be in a band. Supposedly they were just about to get signed. She quit that. There's a lot of things we find out that she quits on. Used to play the piano, loved it. Now she just teaches one person, right? Doesn't really play any other time, right? So kind of quit that. She works at String Theory. It's a shop that sells musical instruments and music, sheet music, right? Music for you to play, not CDs, right? And she has a cat, Voltaire, I believe the cat was called. That's kind of crazy. I remembered that, right? I forget what I'm doing tomorrow, but I remember the name of a cat in a book. Okay. Anyway, right? So her life is a little, you could say, mundane, right? She's not seeing anyone else or anything like that. Her best friend is in Australia. She could have gone, but she cancelled, right? And she collects medicine for her neighbor, Mr. Banerjee. Now, with all the things that are just she's letting slip away from life, but that's it. Like, it's not crazy. Now, her mum died of cancer. We find that out. Her dad had a heart attack when she was a kid. But it's just like, you know, that's it. Right? Like, it could be a worse life. She's got a flat. You don't get to sound like she's in any financial shit. Now, obviously, you know, everyone can probably make more money and all of that. But when you kind of look at it, it doesn't seem to be like anything crazy, you know. And a lot of the things she's just not doing, right? So this was the weird thing about the book for me, because look, I get depression, right? I get depression. I understand that and all of that kind of stuff, you know. But you know, like, it doesn't say why she doesn't want to see a counselor or why she's not, you know, she's on medication, right? We know that, but yeah, it's just not like why aren't you seeking help? You know what I mean? Or there is the thing of, you know, we kind of get a sense why she quit swimming, you know, and why she quit the band, but there doesn't seem to be anything on why she doesn't try anything else. You know, like, why doesn't she try and get a better job? Right? Why doesn't she teach more people piano? Right? We don't get that. And I think that's very important, because here it's just like, my cat died, I lost my job, I think I'm going to kill myself. Right? That's essentially it. And it's just like, yeah, losing you know, a loved pet, that can be tough for sure, for sure. I don't, you know, doubt that. The job, she didn't love the job. You know, so you just think, well, and also it's retail. There's other retail jobs if you want to work in retail. So there, you know what I mean? Like, you feel that she could have got another job, right? So it was just this thing of, oh, I'm gonna kill myself. And it just seems there wasn't enough there for it to be warranted, you know? Because the way the book is, like, we're learning about Laura, and it's just like 4 days before Laura decided to kill herself, you know, 20 hours before Laura decided to kill herself. You know, so the build up is like this. And so you're waiting for the big thing that drove her to it. But you're looking at her life and you're just like, all right. You know what I mean? She's not particularly getting bullied. You know, a guy that used to be is a brother's best friend is mad at her, and her brother didn't visit her when he was in town. But we don't really get the sense that she's reaching out to her brother either, right? So it's just one of those things that you're like, all right, fine, you've decided to kill yourself. But yes, she wakes in a library. and her favorite librarian, well, the only librarian at her school, the woman that helped her out a lot and she talked to, she would eat lunch in the library. Yeah, she's there, right? She's there and she explains this whole thing to Laura. Like, hey, this place, all these books are about you. These books are about your life, the paths you could have taken. And here, the first book is the book of regrets. And this book will be all the things you regret not doing. Like, I regret not going to Australia with Izzy. I regret not marrying Dan, but that flickers in and out because sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. You know what I mean? I regret leaving the band. I regret bum, 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 bum. So it goes like that. Right. And, that crushes her, obviously. Right. And it's all a bit like, oh, she's so sensitive. But yeah, it's like she she now has to kind of make a decision, right? Because there's, although it's kind of infinite, there is kind of a limit, because this is on that cusp of her attempting to kill herself. So you're in the cracks between then her dying, right? So there's a finite amount of time in which she has to decide before her body is just like blah. All right, so that's the whole gist of it. But yeah, she finds a choice she regrets, and she can then try and live that life, right? And she goes through a lot of different lives, right? So what would happen if I did marry Dan? What would have happened if I did go to Australia? What happened if I was in the band? Just all these different things. What if I had finished a novel that I started at uni? Now, one thing was, right, most of the things that we see her go into, she's very successful. Very successful at. The band is, revered around the world, right? The novel bestseller, Olympics twice as a swimmer. And you're just a bit like, okay, right? Like, it's just a bit, it just felt a little safe, a little peen, because it's just like, yeah, obviously throw her in and make her the best, the best, the best, right? If we really want to do this shit, it shouldn't just be like, she tried, the band didn't quite work out. They just work in pubs now. That would have been a better story, a more realistic story, because if the gist of it is to try and ground her, to let her see that life isn't that bad, and even though some things don't quite turn out how you want, we can still enjoy the experience, right? We can still make something of it. But it's just like, oh no, she's a famous singer dating a famous actor, but life still is a bit meh. It's still a bit oh boo hoo. But then the weird thing is, like, I'm so proud I was the one to dump an actor. And you're just like, that's such a weird thing to be like, oh, I'm proud of. And just to kind of put out there, in the context of this book, because it's just like, that's not the thing, man. Right? If a relationship doesn't work, a relationship doesn't work. Right? If someone's an arsehole, then yeah, you don't want to be around them. But it's not, it's like, ha, I dumped someone that was more successful than me. Yay, me. It's just like, I'm glad I'm out of that situation. That just wasn't good for me. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, it was weird. Right? Because if you're thinking, oh, I dumped an actor. It's just like you only dated them because they're an actor. Right? That was then the only reason, because you're not going, yeah, you're not gloating on that front, right? So it's just weird, especially because we're meant to be dealing with this mental health situation and trying to rebuild Nora, as it were. She bumps into a guy in her situation. That's when we learn it's not always a library, right? I think we learn that at the beginning as well, anyway, but it's kind of reinforced at this point. Now, things happen, they have sex, but it's just like, ugh, the sex was so underwhelming. It's like he was looking through me all the time. And you're just like, okay, all right, but what did you do? You know what I mean? This is the thing, because we never get what Laura is trying to do to fix a situation, or what are Laura's faults. You know what I mean? Because she says some snarky things during this book, but nothing's like called out on. But yeah, the sex thing was weird because it doesn't say particularly why it was bad. Like, was it too quick? You know, robotic? Like, this is just like he kind of saw through me. She's like, oh, there wasn't the emotion, but it's just like, but you don't know each other. So, you know, and the person he likes isn't this you, right? So if that person was still there, then the sex probably would have been better because he likes that for you. You know what I mean? But it's not like, I told him that, my breasts were too sensitive, but he kept on, or, that I wanted him to eat me a bit longer and he didn't. Like, there was nothing like that. So it was just like, all right, how did you try and make the sex better? Like, did you be like, no, 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 I prefer it like this? Like, I want to be on top, or I mean, like, but there was nothing. And that was the thing in a lot of these situations. Like, we hear a complain. Oh, now I'm a famous singer, but it sucks. Yeah, you hear a complain all the time, but it's just like, but what do you do in these situations? How could you make these situations better? And it's not like, oh, if you're a victim, right? It's your fault for getting beat up. Let's say, now this doesn't happen, but I'm just an example, right? Then it's your fault for getting beaten up. No, 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 no. But you do have the choice to go to the police, leave the house, all of these things, which is tough. It's tough, and a lot of times there's Stockholm syndrome, right? There's sometimes there's things like that, and a sense of guilt, and I get that, but there are outs, right? And then you find people, then they just like realize that, and they leave, they get out, they escape, they save themselves, but there was none of that here. It was just like getting into this situation that she thought would be perfect. And then it's just like, actually, he wasn't a very nice person. And it's just like, right. But you let all of those things go. If he's rude to waiting staff, you weren't like, you shouldn't do, man, that's kind of shitty, man. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? If he's telling you to, like, you went with all of that. You know, you went with all of that. You enabled the situation. So it wasn't a book about her learning not to enable, right? That would have been something, but it wasn't that, right? It's also that thing of um oh, I thought that bright lights and dazzle would be the thing that makes my life fulfilling, but really, just the mundane is enough. And you're just like, fuck off. They're so simplistic and trite. You know what I mean? It just frustrated me. Just frustrated me, you know, because it was just a weird way of looking at depression and just an easy way of, oh, this is what you should do, right? The grass isn't always greener. Yeah, it was just kind of that, and it's just like that's so simplistic, right? That's not the thing that fucks a lot of people up. You know what I mean? It's not the thing that fucks a lot of people up. So just to kind of wrap it in this little bow and be like, there you go, Nora's say, it just like, ugh. Ugh. But there's always a but, right? There's always a but, people. You know. You know. All right, so listen, I think that like it wasn't for me. As a book, it obviously was not for me. But I think if you like stuff like fuck, it was something like the many lives or something. Read it recently. I read it earlier this year, people. Fuck. I you know. You know. It's gonna bug me. And then The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Right, if you they're kind of similar. So I think if you enjoyed The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I think you will very much enjoy this. You know what I mean? The fuck. There was these books, and my friend, she really liked them, but I couldn't get into it. It wasn't that it was rubbish, I just couldn't get into it. And I think that was The Miniaturist, something like that, right? I think if you like those sort of books, then The Midnight Library, I think that would work for you. You know what I mean? I think you will resonate with that story. It just, you know what I mean? It just didn't really work for me, you know? But yeah, the idea is a decent one. Oh, the other thing, there was another thing that got me, right? Because she's jumping into all of these different lives and situations. Now, firstly, it's like, oh, she jumps in with no information whatsoever. And you're just like, listen, I want a quantum leap, motherfucker. And Sam, he didn't, when he first jumped in, yeah, he's a little disorientated. But as time went on, he got more and more information. Now, not the full hope, but he got up to a point, you know, and there was information. And you just think, firstly, yeah, it would, like, you're not getting thrown into a life, but with nothing, because that just doesn't work. You know, the other thing is the first time, fine, maybe the second time, but after that, you understand the situation. Nora would understand the situation. So the fact that she was still acting like a dum dum, that made no sense, right? It's just like, fine, be like, okay, I'm jumping into this life. All right, so I don't know who anyone's name is, and I need to work all of this out and what the situation is. Okay, there's questions. Be like, yo, I don't know, man. I think I've eaten something. I just feel a bit messy. It's like my mind is all scrambled and fuzzy. What the fuck are we meant to be doing right now? Because for the life of me, it's gone. Right? Boom. Someone's just like, oh man, you're such an idiot. All right, we're meant to be going to the blah, blah, blah. You know, in the simple ways. You know, or it's like, I need to check movie times. Has someone got the paper? Then you'll be like, what's the time? Oh, the date is on the paper. You know what I mean? Like, certain information, you'd be like, who's the president? Who's the prime minister? What's happening in the world? Like, there's ways. And also, it's set now. So iPhones and, Samsung Edges and all of that are around. So it's just like, yeah, it was weird how every time she jumped in, it's like, I know nothing. And then her fumbling at trying to find things out. Because you're just like, there's ways, man. What the fuck are you doing? And it's just like certain information, she'd be like, wait, he's dead? And you'd be like, bitch, you're in a fucking other reality. What are you do? Like, you've been told this over and over again. Yeah, that was irritating. That was irritating. But as I said, look, if you like the Invisible Life, the miniaturist, stuff like that, I think this will work with you. Okay. So yeah, that's my take on the Midnight Library.